Hello and welcome to Friday Double Bill, India's first full-length feature review show where we analyze and discuss the latest films from Bollywood and Hollywood to help you make a more informed choice at the movies. I'm Fahad Samar and this is Mayank Fahad.
Well, tonight's show should really be called Quadruple Bill because we're looking at 4 films, 2 Hindi movies, both of which have one thing in common, and that's actor Govinda. The movies are Kill Dil and Happy Ending. Of the 2 Hollywood films, one is a comedy, Dumb and Dumber 2. The other is an action-packed adventure. That one is called The Equalizer.
Well, let's figure out if Saif Ali Khan is giving us our money's worth and a truly happy ending.
Happy Ending, directed by the duo Raj and DK, is a romantic comedy that is also supposed to be a spoof on romantic comedies, or romedies as they call it. The film stars Saif Ali Khan in the lead role of a commitment-phobic romantic. He plays a writer in LA, still basking in the glory of a bestseller he published 5.5 years ago. This character is essentially jobless and has plenty of time to spare for chasing women and moving on to the next. Once he becomes broke, he is forced to write a Bollywood script for a romantic comedy. As usual, he falls for another woman, this time a writer played by Liana De Cruz. The script of the film the writer is writing for a Bollywood movie simultaneously becomes the script of his own life. The film also stars Ranveer Shori and Kalki in fairly prominent roles.
You know, Mayank, the thing about happy endings is that you should have a good beginning as well. I thought this film began beautifully. I thought the first half was so tight. Saif Ali Khan plays Saif Ali Khan because that is what he does best. But having said that, he still, give me an inkling of what he was like in the early days with Farhan's debut film. You know, he was young, he was spontaneous. There was a wonderful urbaneness about Saif that we got to see again in this. This film is set in LA. It's a very hip kind of film. It's trying very hard to be hip in some places. And then at the interval onward, I was so delighted. And then I don't know what happened. Things just fell apart, and given that this is a spoof of a romantic comedy, for it to fall on its face so badly was something that I couldn't see coming. What about you?
Well, you know, I'm going to be slightly generous here for a variety of reasons. One is, yes, you're absolutely right. This film could have ended a good 40 minutes before it did. At any point in time when I thought that's the end of the film, there's yet another sequence. But every sequence I felt had at least 1 or 2 scenes which were funny. So I realized, oh, they couldn't edit this sequence out because of that scene. And then yet another sequence, and then one good scene, then another sequence, then one good scene. I think it just stretches far too long. But as a movie, I think there was something interesting going on. Let's just deal with stuff that I didn't like. One is the fact that this movie could have easily been in English. It's set in LA. None of these actors are going to be talking, these characters are going to be talking in the language that they do. The good part I felt were 2 things. One is, I think, it's a quirky film in its own right, as a rom-com or a romedy as they call it. I really like these 2 directors, Raj and DK. I think one of the films, Shore in the City, was their best. But at least they're doing something which is what they would call hatke in its own right for a Bollywood film. Second, Saif Ali Khan, I feel, even now, is a fairly underrated superstar. I think he takes a lot of risks. By and large, I think it had a lot of good stuff going for it, but I think that ending was just too far, and, you know, it should have come much earlier.
Well, there we have it. Mayank holding forth on the happy ending. Let us proceed forthwith to our OMG, the oh my god moments. You know, Mayank, in an effort to be hatke, sometimes what happens is that you try and be extra smart. And I think, unfortunately, this film failed in that department, and I mean, succumbed to that only because you have an overweight Saif playing his alter ego who keeps appearing through the film. He looks suspiciously like Preetham, the music director, extremely unkempt, rather paunchy and disheveled, and keeps talking to Saif right through the film. Now, this device is a very interesting device, except that when you have in a trope of a romantic comedy a best friend, you can use the best friend to be that thing. Ranveer Shori plays Ranveer Shori. He's done a great job. He's a solid actor who's often steals the show when they are doing scenes together. What is the need for this alter ego? And I saw all the people in the audience moaning and groaning each time Saif's alter ego manifests and they're like, can we just get over with it?
Well, I agree with your OMG moment. Every time this Preetham character appears, and he's supposed to be an alter ego also in terms of one being suave and the other one being a hardcore, Haryanvi character that sort of Saif Ali Khan played in Omkara. Of course, he didn't do any research for this particular role. But my personal OMG moment, or my oh my god moment from this film would have to be Govinda. Fahad. Here is this guy, really taking pot shots, and all those guys who left him behind. Govinda was as big a hero as, Salman Khan is now, or Shah Rukh Khan is now, or Amir Khan is now back in the 90s.
Yes.
Clearly, he is nowhere in sight, while those guys still seem to rule the roost. And one of the things that separate all those guys from him is the six-pack. Now, here is this guy, he's made all these lines, of the six-pack in LA. He plays a movie star. All of us should know that. He plays himself in a manner that only he can. And he turns himself around with cosmetic surgery, telling all these superstars who are almost touching 50 that, hey, the reason you're there is because I didn't do this. And I thought it's a really, really funny moment in the movie and pretty well done by Govinda. Well, I think enough will be said about the happy ending or the lack of an ending or an extended ending of this particular film. I know a lot of people may not like it. I know, Fahad, you didn't like it as much as I did. But, don't judge me for this one. But at least the lead character in some form or the other resonated with me personally. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed most of the film. It's also a movie that can be watched by men who are not into romantic comedies, because it's not one of those soppy romances, as it were. From my end, I think I would go to the theater. Well, I've already been to the theater. I did not regret it. I don't think you will too.
I'm glad you said that, Mayank. The thing is, the resonances for me are even greater in this film for the simple reason, as a writer who has a second novel coming out any week now, clearly the film works for me at just the fact that this guy is out there doing his thing. And 5.5 years later, he's resting on his laurels. Extremely funny and all of that. Like I said, there are things to appreciate about this film. Sometimes you have heightened expectations because there are directors, there's an actor, they are urbane, they are sophisticated, and you therefore set the bar higher. I was therefore disappointed that they couldn't live up to that. Certainly, I would not be rushing out in a hurry to see this in a theater. I would be very comfortable recommending that you see it on television or on DVD at your leisure. There are other films to be watched, and you might be happier watching it then. Keep this for another day, a rainy day perhaps.